メジャー翻訳速報。オリオールズがついに菅野智之投手と1年1300万ドルで契約合意に至りました。35歳ながら昨シーズン日本で素晴らしい成績を残した菅野投手の挑戦に現地メディアも大きな注目を寄せています。今回は菅野投手の契約についての現地の反応と彼への期待をお届けします。このチャンネルでは日本人メジャーリーガーに関する現地放送局の様子を翻訳してお届けいたします。お見逃しのないよう今のうちにチャンネル登録をよろしくお願いいたします。
But while you were watching something else, interesting story in the free agent case of Teoscar Hernandez. It's been put out there, and we're going to give this all the credibility it deserves because Hector Gomez is usually spot on with stuff like this. Teoscar wants 3 years, and Hector has listed 6 teams that are interested, and that price of poker goes up all the time. I know that you and I are on different sides of what the Juan Soto signing did for the rest of the free agents. I am firmly of the belief that it raised the price of poker on all of them. You think he's an outlier, and I guess we'll know in the next month or so what the right answer is of the teams that we just saw there. And we could put it back up for you.
Yeah,
if
there's
you'd
some
like.
good clubs that he fits nicely
Just
with.
pick one out that you could argue for or advocate for being a good fit.
I mean, honestly, I did not. The second one up there, the Phillies. What a missing ingredient he would be for them.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah, we haven't heard
I
anything
hadn't thought
there.
about that. Hold on, guys. We're not ready for him yet.
We'll get to Jesus Luzardo in a sec. We're talking Teoscar here.
You know what? I was going to say, you know what I did like, though? He's come out and said, I want 3 years. You know, I think a lot of times guys play around and it's, I want 7, I want 7, I want 6, I want, you know, and you're not going to get there. By him saying 3 years minimum, I'm willing to take that, now all of a sudden you get 6 teams bidding.
Yeah.
If he says, I want 5 years, how many of those teams do you think are in?
It's smart, right? And then you can, you know, you can finagle your price points and your years of service, and one bid comes over the top of the other, as was the case with Soto between the Mets, Yankees, Blue Jays, and Red Sox. We're led to believe. Here, Teoscar's numbers: a breakthrough campaign with the Dodgers last year, 33 homers, cut way down on the punch-outs. That had been a problem for him in past seasons. But this is a guy that's got experience in both leagues. Of course, 6 years in Toronto. Remember the year in Seattle, a couple years with Houston back in the day. Teoscar wants 3 years. The money's going to be great. Let's see, he's 32 years old, so he's right there. He's right in the middle of his prime earning years, coming off a World Series championship win.
This is where he capitalized.
Do you think the 1 year in L.A. was enough, and the World Series and all the great accolades that came with it? Like, it's easy to get the intoxication of staying with the Dodgers has got to be strong.
Yeah.
Do you think that 1 year would bring his price down a little bit? Like, will there be a incumbent discount if he signs with the Dodgers, or is he looking for the biggest dollars?
He'll get paid now. With that many teams, and it's only 3 years, he's going to get what he wants. The Dodgers love him. They thought he was fantastic. He's one of our great interviews. He's always available. Terrific person. But I think you look at the body of his career, and I thought it was interesting. You talked about he cut down on the strikeouts. If you watch, he's figuring it out. You know, this is the beauty of our sport. When you get to your 30s, we start saying they're old. But really, when you get to the 30s, you're like, okay, they're trying to throw me that slider outside in this situation. You start figuring out baseball. And if your body holds up, you become a superstar. And he's right there now. We just watched him have an amazing season. He's cutting down on strikeouts. It doesn't surprise me. He's getting smarter as he gets older. And I think you're right. This next 2 or 3 years are going to be big for him. He's going to put up great numbers.
This is his window. This is his earning window right here. I think a couple things, that if the offers are close, he'd prefer staying with the Dodgers. I thought it was a great fit on and off the field. They loved him in the room. They loved him on the field. So if you're talking about $500,000, ton of money for us, but not for these guys, he stays with the Dodgers. Even at $1 million, I'm not sure he wants to go elsewhere. But everybody has a price, right? If there's another offer that's so much bigger than the one in L.A., he goes. The team on that list that intrigues me the most among the 6 is the Reds, because in what you and I have discussed as a winnable NL Central this year, because it's changed, right? The Brewers are not going to be what they were.
How about hitting in that ballpark?
Oh, in that ballpark? With that good lineup around him,
Yeah.
That's an exciting proposition. Teoscar there, that's a 40 home run season waiting to happen.
See, and I think he's learned his lesson too. You know, we get caught up today, we're a lot about the numbers, and people are not figuring out it's also about who's around you. Soto had an amazing season, but who hit behind him? Aaron Judge. He's in San Diego, and they had to move him all over the lineup. You know, before that, he was always protected. Ryan Zimmerman, and he's always had protection. Teoscar goes to Seattle and had nobody. And he swung and missed like crazy. He goes to L.A., and you got all these guys around him. Yeah, I'm going to get something to hit now.
Yeah, I'm
so
with
I
you.
think in his decision will be, who's hitting around me? That's why I'm intrigued by the Phillies. You all of a sudden throw him in there. You got Schwarber, you got Harper, you got all these guys that can hit.
It's intriguing, too.
Around him.
I know. Those are two teams we didn't expect to be with the usual suspects in the Teoscar sweepstakes. There was another story yesterday I want your reaction to as well, and it's this from Bruce Levine, who does such a good job covering Chicago sports. Cubs working hard on Jesus Luzardo deal with Marlins.
This is a high-end all-star pitcher.
That is true. They could have 4 lefties in their rotation. Luzardo made $5.5 million last year, 2 years of ARB left before free agent status in 2027. So it's a cost-controlled, high-upside starter. Would you at all worry about putting together a rotation with 4 left-handed starters? Is that a concern for you in any way?
It depends on who they are. So my first thought was, yeah. But you know what? In our day and age of flipping guys around so much.
You hit it. It depends on who they are, right? Because these are all more or less splits neutral guys. You're not so worried about being beat up by a right-handed dominant lineup that you'd be afraid of going 3 lefties in a series.
Right.
So, yeah, you make a good point there. Luzardo to the Cubs is interesting. I'm going to take it in a direction that we didn't see coming potentially here because just had this thought driving in, and as per usual, I was listening to Steve Phillips and Xavier on the leadoff spot, our friends at MLB Network Radio.
I never listen to you, Steve.
I do. They didn't get into this, but Luzardo as a trade piece is interesting, right? I don't know that the Cubs have the money to go get Corbin Burns.
Right.
But if you're worried about left-handed balance and you have the resources, and by the way, it's the Chicago Cubs. We're not talking about the Bad News Bears here. They have money there.
Yeah.
Burns to the Cubs is something we've heard nothing of. Everybody just assumes it's Giants or bust. What if the Cubs emerge as a dark horse candidate here? The mystery team.
Wouldn't that be something?
But the problem is, I think they're still trying to tinker with how to score more runs because their pitching held up really nicely last year. Offensive repression ballpark. You've been talking about that a lot this winter. Yeah. So maybe it's a trade for Luzardo. Maybe it's going out and spending the big money on a guy like Burns. That's less likely, but I think that's interesting.
But also, now I get 4 left-handers. I can make some moves. Maybe I trade one of those guys. Maybe I couldn't acquire a bat that I wanted. Now I got another pitcher in to do the deal.
Yeah.
And that happens. And maybe Luzardo's one of those guys that they get. Maybe it ends up being Matthew Boyd. They signed. Maybe they trade him now. There's a lot of opportunities for them to really start to maneuver. If you have 4 left-handers in your rotation, you don't need 4.
Let's go back to the interwebs for the next story we're reacting
Everybody's
to.
on the internet.
Everybody's on the internet, including Jeff Passan. Just got on the internet recently, I understand. Right-hander Tomoyuki Sugano and the Orioles in agreement on a 1-year, $13 million contract. Sugano's 35, one of the best pitchers in Japanese baseball last season. Great numbers and saying sayonara to his Japanese league employer to come stateside to Baltimore. All right, we get it. These are great numbers, but we also get that he's in his mid-30s. And if somebody's thinking this is an adequate replacement for Corbin Burns, then this guy's got some big shoes to fill.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. I think what they're going to do is, if they're not getting Corbin Burns, and I'm not saying they're out of it yet, then you got to get as many guys that can fill that void for him.
Like this guy.
Yeah, but what stood out to me was like, hold it, he's 35. We don't have 35-year-olds over here that can pitch. You know, I mean, this is an unknown. He's coming over here, and I understand he put up good numbers in Japan. I get it. But none of these guys you don't want? You don't want a shot at Verlander or Charlie Morton or Kershaw's not going anywhere.
Yeah, but could you get one of these guys at that price point for a year?
They've all made $1 billion. I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to get to a point where we're playing musical chairs. And it's like, do you want to pitch? Do you not? It's not like they're sitting there going, I've got 15 offers. I'm just weighing them. You know, it's Christmas. I'm going on the holiday. These guys are not at that point now.
You're talking about that board.
That board.
Right. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying for sure. Like, go get one of the guys that's been here, multiple-time All-Star, Verlander,
You're not going to call Max Scherzer
there.
or Verlander and say, hey, look, here's what we're doing here on our club. You're a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Can you lead our young guys to that? Max Scherzer would say, let me lead the young guys in a heartbeat. And I don't think it's going to come down to he made $50 million when he was injured.
That's right. Okay. No, you make a good point, but it's Sagano that goes to Japan on a one-year deal. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I'm to Baltimore rather that I'm super conversant on Sagano. Right? This is not a guy that was on many of our radars. I'm not that deep in the weeds, but the Orioles apparently like him a lot. And it's a low-risk deal, too. Let's face it. It's a year for $13 million.
I'm not saying he's not good, but I'm just saying if I'm one of those 35-year-olds over here, I'm chapped. Like, what?
Well, here he is from the 2017 World Baseball Classic. The only man that remembers this event chapter and verse is J.P. Morosi, who's off today. Sagano coming stateside. Enjoy the crab cakes on the Inner Harbor.
メジャー翻訳速報。興味深いニュースが飛び込んできましたね。オリオールズが菅野智之投手と1年1300万ドルで契約合意したとのことです。日本でトップクラスの投手として活躍してきた菅野投手ですが、35歳でのメジャー挑戦となります。コービン・バーンズの代役としては大きな期待を背負うことになりそうですが、オリオールズとしては低リスクな契約で実績のある投手を獲得できたのではないでしょうか。メジャーリーグでどのような活躍を見せてくれるのか、とても楽しみですね。皆さんの期待や予想などございましたら、ぜひコメント欄でお聞かせください。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。ご視聴ありがとうございました。